The more you read about Warhammer 40K lore, the more you realize that Games Workshop absolutely loves creating hateable characters. From Lucius the Eternal, who just can't stop talking about how good of a swordsman he is, only to die and corrupt the person who slayed him, to Urda, who just appeared in the Horus Heresy books, apparently was the mother of the Trademarks, and then soloed 4 greater demons with powers comparable to the God Emperor himself. But I think we can all agree that Erebus, the Hand of Destiny, first chaplain of the traitor Wordbearer Space Marine Legion, is the biggest asshole in the entire setting. He is a sleazy rat that keeps betraying every single person around him. Erebus orchestrated the fall of Lorgar, caused Horus to fall to chaos, and lead a massive rebellion against the Imperium and the God Emperor of mankind, and even ended up killing one of the coolest characters ever written in 40k. Argoltal, why did you have to die? But what if I told you that Erebus is also a genius? That this guy succeeded at every single task that he tried his hands at? What if I told you that Erebus might very well be the smartest space marine to have ever existed? And for all the horror he caused, he is happy about it too. And for good reason. By the end of today's video, you will know everything you need to know about Erebus, the Hand of Destiny. We will cover every single insane objective he set for himself and actually completed. Cover the list of Primarchs, Astartes, and even Perpetuals that he screwed up along the way. And end off with a very recent quote in the lore that shows why Erebus is an absolute genius, even if he's being a prick about it. Because yeah, the most hated character in all of Warhammer is the most successful space marine to have ever existed. All that and a whole lot more in today's video. Alright, let's get into the lore. To properly understand who and what Erebus really is, and how he became such a massive thorn in the side of the 40k galaxy, we first have to start with his personal story and rise to infamy. Don't worry, I'll keep this quick, as Erebus has quite a bit of lore dedicated to him in the many Horus Heresy novellas and books. In the late years of M30, a boy who would at some point be known as Erebus walked upon the surface of Colchis, an ancient human planet that, while covered in deserts and wide mountain ranges, held a culture of superstition and priests of the dark gods. The boy who would become Erebus was a cruel and uncaring child who spent his time playing a game. In this game, he would grab a scorpion and rip its limbs off one by one. During this game, he sometimes got stung, a danger he actually enjoyed. Sometimes the stings only hurt a little bit, but once they nearly killed him. Yet that was all part of the game he played. His parents were poor, and the boy hated them for it. He hated Colchis, and he hated everything and everyone else. This game was the only thing that made him feel like he had power, a cheaply acquired, no-risk power game that allowed him to be better than anyone else. After a couple of years, the soon-to-be Erebus was told to pick a trade or study. Of course, as he only really desired easy power, he chose to become a priest, which was an esteemed position in the Colchisian culture. Another boy in the village, of the same age as him, was actually named Erebus. This boy shaved his head and covered himself in tattoos of scripture and religious texts. One day, the evil boy decided he had had enough of playing with scorpions. He wanted to play with bigger animals. While keeping the rules of the game the same, he killed Erebus, a boy whom his parents often compared him to. From this point onwards, the boy took up the name of Erebus for himself. Yet he knew he could not stay in this village, so he traveled across Colchis. As a poor stray, Erebus was barred from joining the Priest of Colchis, but found a way to become an acolyte in another city. After many months of pretending to be interested in being a good priest and helping those around him, he found himself captured by the holy text. 4 gods, those that enjoyed chaos and suffering, would give him all the power he desired by just playing his scorpion game. Erebus realized at this moment he would not be a true believer. He would use the gods for his own gain. At some point, a new priest had arrived on Colchis and spread his religion of a golden god all over the sandy planet. Lorgar had come, and Erebus remembers watching him triumphantly march through the streets of his city. At some point, the young Erebus even locked eyes with Cor Farron, the adoptive father of Lorgar, knowing that one day he would be his favorite rival. While Lorgar outlawed the old faith with his belief in the God Emperor of mankind, Erebus was part of a group that secretly went behind the Primarch's back and kept worshipping and making regular sacrifices to the Chaos Gods. When the Emperor finally came, Erebus saw the ultimate scorpion, the largest he would ever play with. So, as a young teenager, Erebus and many of his true believers joined the Legiones Astartes and became Space Marines. This decision killed many of the true believers, and those who survived felt a level of pain that was the worst they would ever experience. Erebus started his journey towards becoming the first chaplain of the Wordbearers. But as this was during the Great Crusade, before Space Marines were fully brainwashed and completely psycho-indoctrinated, Erebus never became loyal to the Emperor. He was still the same boy from Colchis. He was only loyal to himself and the Chaos Gods if it suited him. While the Great Crusade marched on, Erebus rose to power. He was not only a decent combatant, but through his oratory prowess and devilish willpower alone, did he rise to be on Lorgar's side, his first chaplain and advisor in all matters of life. On Davin, far away from his legion and his Primarch's prying eyes, Erebus found the last of the Lord's priests, a cult of chaos that had been around for many millennia. He ordered the Lord's priests to rebuild their ruined temple and promised to return one day. Here they told Erebus of a secret weapon, something that could kill even the Primarchs or the Emperor. They told him of the Anatomy. Erebus returned to his legion, hiding his slowly growing knowledge of chaos from his brothers and Primarch, knowing that when the time was right, he could use them for his own plans. A couple of decades later, Lorgar was publicly chastised for proclaiming the Emperor a god. The Primarch was grief-stricken, and it was through Erebus's counsel that the Emperor's son was convinced that his father was indeed not worthy of his worship. Instead, they should go look for real gods, ancient powers that swirl far, far away. When the scales fell from Lorgar's eyes and the true power of the warp was revealed to him, the Primarch would have declared his newfound revelation to the entire galaxy. But it was Erebus again who suggested caution. After all, the Hand of Destiny always intended to play the long game. His scorpions and game were now recreated with the Legiones Astartes, Primarchs, and one day, the Master of Mankind himself. With the opening phase of his scheme complete, Erebus set in motion a chain of events that led to the damnation of Horus himself, engineering the injury that brought him to the Serpent Priest of Davin in the newly rebuilt temple. In these and 1,000 other blasphemies, Erebus is revealed as both the master and the puppet, the instrument of ruination of all that the Emperor fought for, and the ultimate pawn of the powers of the warp. But what was Erebus's plan exactly? How did he plan to continue after Horus had fallen to chaos? How was he himself going to receive power and support from this? Because so far, he has kind of backstabbed everybody, shown his true colors to his Primarch, and kind of went off to do his own things. How would he benefit from all of this? Erebus's plan is simple yet horrifying. He essentially seeks power only for himself, to be the architect of fate and master of causality. Ultimately, the harbinger of chaos seeks to continue his scorpion game forever. He enjoys the dangers of his scorpions, pushing them, seeing how far he can go before being stung. and seeing if he can even survive such a thing. Some of his most dangerous scorpions so far have been Karn the Betrayer, a warrior he caused to become the insane champion of Khorne, and Fabius Bile, who would one day become one of the most sinister threats to the entire galaxy when he created his new men. While he would be brutally wounded and almost killed by Karn for killing his friend, Argoltal, an act that even got under Lorgar's skin, his manipulations run way deeper. But there's way more to this plan than just gaining power, which is where we will need to read a couple of excerpts to really understand what his true purpose is. Essentially, why is he being such an ass? Perhaps the best example of Erebus's evil plan is his conversation with Fabius Bile in Fear to Tread, where he literally blackmails the apothecary working on a captured Blood Angel during the Isfantry atrocity. "What do you want?" "Only a favor." Fabius grimaced, wondering what scope and what cost any such favor would encompass. "Why would I wish to assist you?" Erebus's false smile stiffened. "Because if you do, I will be in your debt. And I assure you, apothecary, it would be better for you to have my obligation at hand, rather than my enmity. I would count you as a friend among the Emperor's children, just as I have other friends amongst other legions." "Other friends?" Fabius echoed. "Yes, we are on the cusp of great change. Old rulers and structures torn down, swept away. In the aftermath, the bonds between men of vision will be of great importance." The word-bearer walked to one of the shuttered capsules and tapped it. "This is what I want, something from your collection." He pulled the capsule's lever, and the slats folded back to reveal the body of a legionary inside, floating in a thick, oleaginous fluid. The warrior seemed dead at first glance. "This was done on the planet called Murder. I recognized the work of the Macharachnids. Tell me, how did you manage to get him off the surface without alerting his legion?" When the apothecary didn't answer, he smiled again. "It doesn't matter. The Blood Angels must believe him dead, or else they would not have stopped looking for him. Have you taken all you wanted from him?" "I harvested what little was left of his gene seed, but the majority was already destroyed. I have DNA and biotemplates now." "And yet you still let him live. Why?" "The stasis container holds him in a non-state, unable to either fully heal or succumb to his wounds. Some might consider that torture." It was Fabius's turn to give a cold reply. "I never dispose of anything that might come in useful. And your wisdom has been proven right. I will take this one, and you will have my gratitude." "Why do you want this half-corpse? What use is it to you?" "That's not your concern." "Suppose I make it my concern." The apothecary casually laid his hand upon a Medicaid needler resting on his workstation. "Then the full scope of what you are doing here would come to light. Not just the genetic modifications, the splicing of Emperor's Children gene code with that of Xenostrains and other legions, but also your systematic and clandestine seizure of injured warriors from the battlefields of the Great Crusade for your own experimentation. Angron, Mortarion, even the War Master. Do you think they would overlook your abduction of their legionaries?" Fabius sneered. "Take what you want and get out." "Many thanks, and I promise that this gift you give me will help bring another legion to the War Master's banner." He smiled. "At least, that is one option." Fabius Bile, like Erebus, is a space marine. A cunning and highly dangerous one at that. But when Erebus entered the room, he plucked all of Fabius's limbs, metaphorically without getting stung by the Medicaid needler. Essentially, he cut apart another scorpion. But what does Erebus want with this half-dead body of a Blood Angel? Well, he wanted the same thing as he wanted with the Anatomy and the death of Argoltal. Erebus hoped to turn Sanguinius and the Blood Angels to chaos, corrupting them from within. For those who do not know, Horus considered 3 legions to be the greatest threats to the Horus Heresy and devised a plan for all of them to be destroyed or delayed. First, the Dark Angels were sent to the edges of the galaxy in an attempt to make it impossible for them to return to Terra and defend it. Second, the Ultramarines were supposed to be destroyed on Khald. And lastly, the Blood Angels were to be annihilated in the Cygnus cluster by Khorne demon hordes. However, even with this disgustingly cunning plan from Erebus, a false promise to Sanguinius to cure his son from the Red Thirst, this would all sadly fail. Both the Blood Angels and Ultramarines would continue to be a threat to the traitor legions. The Blood Angels, because of Erebus's failure, a proverbial scorpion sting that came with dire consequences, and the arrival of the Ultramarines, which, to Erebus's credit, was the fault of Cor Farron, because that old mad lad could not kill Guilliman with an anatomy blade. During the Siege of Terra, Erebus went to the surface by himself. He carried the blade that had corrupted Horus, and he sought to kill a perpetual. This individual ended up being Urda, and although she considered his offer of unlimited power for a single second, she proceeded with calling him a pathetic devil boy. Of course, Erebus would not accept such answers, and although he spawned 4 greater demons into existence, which were immediately taken apart, he succeeded in stabbing the mother of the Primarchs with his anathema blade, killing the perpetual for good. In every sense of it, Erebus was the master architect of the Horus Heresy. He created the greatest scorpion game ever, even having his evil scorpions rip apart the good scorpions. He had created a cycle of eternal war. He ensured the long war would start and continue for 10,000 years. And the best of it all, it didn't even carry his name. Nobody could blame him for it. He could now gain as much power, control, and proverbial scorpions as he liked, and no one would ever oppose him first. There would be hundreds of warbands and warlords to go through before it became his own issue. He had not only assured his ascension to as much dominion as he desired, but also essentially guaranteed a cycle that creates unlimited scorpions for him to torture. As long as there is only war in 40k, Erebus will reign supreme, exactly how he wants to. So that was his plan, but contrary to popular belief, he is not a genius at properly pulling this off. Doing an evil plan, overthrowing a world, empire or faction, does not mean that much in the grand scheme of 40k. You have to establish yourself in the highest circles of your side. You have to become an eternal part of the very basis of the setting. And in the case of Erebus, he is Chaos's Malcador the hero. I guess he is Erebus the villain. So, how is Erebus the Chaos version of Malcador, I hear you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked, friend. Malcador the Sigillite was the Emperor's personal advisor, friend and companion. In fact, without Malcador, many aspects of the Imperium would have failed or simply never have been possible. The Emperor, beloved by all, was a master of creating warriors, tools and weapons. His Thunder Warriors took Terra by storm, his Legiones Astartes conquered a galaxy, and his Adeptus Custodes slaughtered billions of demons in the Human Webway project. But while the Emperor is a master of many things, and did play a decently active role in the governing of the Imperium, establishing the various adepts and departamentos that would oversee the day-to-day of the Imperium, Malcador was their true creator. The Emperor birthed armies, Malcador birthed bureaucrats. Together, they were unstoppable. If that was not enough, Malcador was the one who invented the facade of the Emperor. He sculpted the image of a golden warlord who would earn the respect, love and admiration of both the Primarchs and every mortal across the galaxy. Without Malcador, there could never have been an Imperium. In turn, without Erebus, the traitor legions would never have turned into the Chaos Space Marines they are today. Without Erebus, Horus would never have sought Molech. Without Erebus, Chaos would never have properly corrupted the legions. And if this is still not enough evidence why Erebus is the dark mirror of Malcador, then maybe this excerpt from the Board is Set will emphasize it better than I ever could. I know what you are doing. You think to make me angry, like Horus. You are just an invisible, nondescript foundation stone in the edifice that will be my undying glory. I have lied to you from the very first moment, and all that you believe of me, of the universe and mankind's part in it, is fiction. I have manipulated you, abused you, and I will toss you away without a single shred or care. One of my legionaries has more consideration for a bolt that he fires than I do for you, Malcador. Malcador had never harbored dreams of glory or even ambitions of temporal power, but Malcador had believed himself valuable. He had taken strength from being a counselor and advisor to the greatest intellect the human species had ever created, an aide to the most gifted psychic being ever born, companion to an immortal who had lived 1,000 lifetimes. I see that you are starting to understand. A hint of a sneer marred Revelation's expression. He gestured towards the pieces set between them. My sons were taken from me, whispered to during the transit to set dark thoughts in their minds. Temptations, lies, propaganda. Tell me, Malcador the Sigillite, how many times have you resisted the efforts of our enemies' lures? A brutal short bark of a laugh made Malcador flinch. You thought yourself too loyal, your faith in me unshakable. Did they not try to recruit you because you have nothing to offer them? I have created much for you. In your name, there would be no Imperium without my efforts. In my name. Never had 3 words sounded so scornful. You are a master of tax collectors and clerks. No Imperium without you. No Malcador without the Imperium, you mean. What justification would there be to keep you around without your countless armies of bureaucrats to sustain you? Even my remembrancers, poets and pick-takers contributed more to the Great Crusade than you did. Malcador felt a tear roll down his cheek, his whole body quivering with shame. Malcador looked at Revelation with silent pleading and was rewarded with a contemptuous sigh. Some call you my left hand. It is true. That is all you have ever been. An extension of my will. I twitch at thought and you act. I care nothing for the hopes and fears of my little finger, and less still for yours. Do not stare at me like some docile ruminant. You said you fear failing me, but the truth is that you know that you already have. You cannot even bring yourself to hate me when I need you to. I have never harbored ambition or sought glory. You seek to wound a pride that does not exist, but you think it does, and that is your shame, not mine. It is your pride that will undo us all, not mine. Malcador and Erebus are near perfect mirrors, but in some regards also opposites. Where Erebus has ambition, pride, and a thirst for glory in the name of the dark gods, Malcador is only a humble servant. Where Erebus destroys and corrupts, Malcador creates and heals. In Malcador's employ are warriors and agents of singular purpose. Those whose allegiance is owed to Erebus are sycophants and worshippers. Even Erebus's weapon, the Crux Malefica, references Malcador, as we see in his Horus Heresy wargear list. The Crux Malefica, this ever-burning staff, decorated with the defaced remnants of imperial doctrine, was Erebus's symbol of authority, aping the stave borne by Malcador as the Emperor's chief advisor, and a not-so-subtle threat aimed at that shadowy figure. But this also shows another side of the story. Malcador was widely feared and even hated by both the Primarchs and the Imperium, in the same way that Horus attacked Malcador for his anger over 2 brothers lost and forgotten. Erebus had been attacked by the War Master for being the way he is, a snake in the shadow, a creator of problems and pawns. With all these big words about being the most hated character in 40k, an Erebus video would not be complete without also listing his failures, and mainly the incredibly painful consequences he has had to face so far for all the things he has done. Malcador paid the ultimate price for his loyalty when he sacrificed himself to save the Imperium. Erebus, on the other hand, has paid different prices. The sting of his scorpions, the beatings of his teachers, and the surgeries that transformed him into a space marine. But these are all very minimal. The most infamous, however, is when Lorgar punished Erebus. When Lorgar himself already sold his soul to Chaos, he realized Erebus's manipulations and started hating him for it. The Primarch wanted his first chaplain to die on cult, but when Erebus returned, alive and gloating about a failed mission, Lorgar put him in his place, a Sinin betrayer. Cult succeeded beyond all expectation. Success beyond expectation, truly. Then I would ask if this is the case. Why does the Warp's melody not sing of such an outcome? Erebus's stern eyes flickered to Angron, Karn and Argol. We should speak, my lord. We are speaking, Erebus. Alone, sire. What we speak of may not be for the uninitiated. Lorgar smiled, the expression as paternal and patient as any living soul had ever been and could ever be. Just speak, First Chaplain. They all saw it. The moment Erebus stood straighter, guarding himself, sensing something was wrong. Angron grinned at the warrior's priest's discomfort. Karn and Argol stood in resolute silence. The ruined storm is born. Yes, but tell me of this grand success you spoke of. And where is your ship, Erebus? Where is Destiny's Hand? Strange that I cannot see it. I believe she sails with Corfarren and the infidus Imperator. Of course, and Corfarren no doubt orbits cult in victory, yes? He has sacrificed my brother Guilliman to the Pantheon, has he not? Sire, calm, Erebus. I only wish to share this moment of triumph with you. So, cult has fallen, the Ultramarines are finished, and Guilliman is dead. That was, after all, the expectation of success that you claim to have exceeded. So, you are to be commended. I have been worried that you failed to kill my brother, lost half the fleet I granted you to an Ultramarines counterattack, and abandoned tens of thousands of my sons and mortal servants on cult's irradiated surface while you fled into the maelstrom. Erebus swallowed and said nothing. But that would be leaving them to die, never to be reinforced, never to be recovered. All those Galferback who spent months of their lives fasting, praying, scarring their flesh in preparation for a change to taste the divine blood, they'd be lost, wouldn't they? Angron was chuckling now, taking a leering amusement in the whole scene. Of course, the novel Betrayer does not end with this simple humiliation. After killing Argol, Erebus would face the wrath of Karn. In what can only be described as the most cathartic scene in all of Warhammer, Karn introduces the Reforged Gorechild by almost killing Erebus with it. The fight was one-sided, a raw beatdown fueled by hatred and rage. Erebus could barely get back up. Erebus was not able to fight back, his Crozius was slapped from his grip, his hand was lost, and his nose broken. Karn only demanded that Erebus get back up, again and again, just to be slammed back into the floor. A gash across his chest, and finally, the finisher. Gorechild was pressed against Erebus' spine, but before it could taste blood, Erebus teleported himself away with his sorcery, before he could die. As mentioned before, Erebus even confronted Urda, a confrontation that almost killed him. There is a reason Urda is the mother of the Primarchs. Erebus himself could not even hope to fight her, instead sending 4 greater demons to do his dirty work. If you want to learn more about this fight and the nature of Urda's power, I covered this scene in depth in my video about the Deep Warp. But of course, the most satisfying punishment Erebus has ever received was when Horus Lupercal confronted him over his failure in dealing with Sanguinius and the Blood Angels, a Sinin feared to tread. The trap at Cygnus has failed. The Blood Angels should be at our banner. He jabbed a finger at the floor. Sanguinius should be kneeling before you, bathed in blood and broken. Instead, this remnant is all we have to show for our efforts. So much had been put into the construction of the cults and the blood veins. We needed that legion. We would have that legion if you had not intervened. Horus showed no sign of irritation at the veiled accusation. You think I was wrong? Horus opened his hands. Please, speak plainly, Erebus. I would have it no other way. You broke that pattern. You disrupted the flow by offering skulls to the Bloodthirster, all because you did not wish the angel to stand among us. You did not want a rival in our ranks. The Blood Angels walked their scarlet path, but now they will never be ours. The ruinous powers will not be pleased. The Apostle's brief tirade died away into silence, and no other sound rose beyond it. There came a flash of shock, quickly smothered, as too late, Erebus arrived at the understanding that he had overstepped the mark. Horus studied him, examining the dense lines of text tattooed across the word-bearer's face and neck. I admit, I am displeased at this turn of events. Sanguinius's death would have served many purposes, even if my vanity was one of them. But so be it. The angel will face me in battle before our campaign ends. Only one of us will survive. That could have been avoided, Erebus offered, attempting to make back the ground he had given up. Do you think I am a puppet? Horus nodded at the Red Angel. A weapon to be commanded. I think you may. I think you must be reminded of your place in the scheme of things. The War Master's hand shot out and snatched at the hilt of a dagger sheathed at the Dark Apostle's belt. Erebus gasped as Horus took his atame and turned it in his grip, letting the warp-touched blade catch the chamber's ill light. You let the mask slip, Erebus. You showed yourself to me. I saw what you showed them. Horus slowly touched the tip of the dagger on the Apostle's cheek, and he flinched away as it burned him. The Sons of Horus were suddenly there at his back, blocking his retreat. For a moment, the word-bearer's legionaries in the chamber hesitated, hands falling to their weapons, ready to defend their master. But Erebus slowly shook his head, warning them off. He had to realize what was about to come, and he had no choice but to accept it. Let me see that face again, said Horus, cutting a bloody line across Erebus's forehead, as his warriors took the Apostle's arm and held him rigid. Your true face. With an artist's care, the War Master sliced through the flesh and into the meat. Though he gasped and trembled, Erebus did not cry out. Horus took the severed edge between his fingers, and like the turning of a page, he skinned Erebus's face from his blood-smothered head. The word-bearer staggered back, his features a ruin of crimson, stark white eyes glaring out and unable to blink. The things that whisper in your ear, and that you hold in concord with your pacts and your inscriptions. Remind them that they are not the architects of this war. Horus paused as he considered the bloody wreck that was his new trophy. I am. So yeah, Erebus has gone through some absolutely horrendous tortures and traumas to receive the powers he now wields. But why is Erebus a genius? He ruined everything, and he was even lambasted for his failures. Well, there is a really good reason. Erebus got exactly what he wanted. Well, everyone has an opinion on Erebus. What does he actually think of himself? How does he feel about his actions? And how does he view the hatred he received for them? Well, in the short story Child of Chaos, Erebus explains his feelings, goals, plans, and most importantly of all, why he has actually succeeded and never really failed once. And no, this is not cope. As much as I hate this bastard, he is speaking the truth here. It is the moment I realized he has always been speaking the truth. Well, when it came to his beliefs in chaos, he did lie about being loyal for a bit, but I digress. Let's get into the excerpt. And for all of this, I am hated. For being there at the outset, for laying the foundations that others would willingly build on. I think they wish to find something in this story that explains things. Some moment of decision, some choice that could later be regretted or accounted for. But it's just as I said, none exists. I have always been on this road, never turning, never deviating. A long time ago, aware of my limitations, I formulated an expression to capture my condition. Blessed is the mind too small to doubt. I am very attached to this maxim and propagate it wherever I can. I hope it will be taken on with enthusiasm once our task is completed and the false emperor is expunged from eternity. For now though, I am content. I am loaded by those I betrayed. I am loaded by those I guided into betrayal. I have brought the War Master the truth and cracked the galaxy's vaults to speed his armies. I have burned worlds. I have been burned by them. And who thanks me for this? This rebellion does not even bear my name. It bears the title of the Scorpion I stayed closest to, the most dangerous of the breed who will ever live. Now I observe my disgrace. I consider the wounds I have suffered and the pain that will dog me forever. They hate me, not because of what I am, but because of what they were. They hate me because they turned, and I did not. The records of our enemies call us all turncoats, but I changed no allegiance. I was always here, just as I am now, aware of myself and the universe that made me. I lied with every breath I ever took, except to myself. That is purity of a kind, and something that no other soul in this grand armada of renegades can boast. I look on Terra from my now void-cold vantage and see its huddled lights glimmer in the fragile dark. Soon after the order to attack will come and the final act will be entered, the monsters I created will burst from their fetters, giving no thought to what long labors brought them here. Horus mutilated me, my own Primarch discarded me. That could be a cause for self-doubt, here on the edge of Terra's fall. That could make a lesser soul slink away, gnawing on his failure even as humanity's bastion collapses at last. But that's never been my way, and I have been stung before, and I always come back for more poison. I am still the boy in the shadows of Colchis, pulling on the garrote string and feeling my blood pump. The old games never really ceased. In truth, only the players changed. Erebus is the only being in the entirety of the Horus Heresy that started it the same way he ended it. He has always been the boy from Colchis. His name has changed, his body has transformed, his face has aged, but at his core, Erebus is and always has been the cruel boy pulling the legs from scorpions, testing others to be stung. More importantly, Erebus is not an angel of death, but a man. He is the most human Astartes to have ever been created. He faces his consequences with a silent dignity. He flees death the same way as any man would. It was not a Primarch or even a god that caused the entire galaxy to burn, but instead it was the machinations of a mere man. Erebus remembers more from his childhood than we have ever seen with any other space marine. He has never changed, and he never will. Erebus is not a traitor. He stayed loyal to what he was from the very beginning. He almost embraced the Imperial truth when he first joined the Great Crusade, but he actively chose not to. He has been, and always will be, a snake in the shadows, feeding from the power of the Chaos Gods. And that does it for today's video. What do you think about Erebus? And did this video change your opinion on him? Is he just a jerk that screwed over the entire setting? Or, as he proclaims himself, was he pure in his intentions? Which, albeit evil, were very honest. If you got the chance to be in Erebus's boots during the Horus Heresy, how would you have beaten the Imperium? Would you have been able to beat the Emperor and Malcador at their own games and configurations of Destiny? Or would you have followed a similar path, depending on how mean you are feeling? Let me know your comments, concerns, suggestions, theories and ideas down in the comment section below. If you think I deserved it with this video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps push this video into the algorithm and it would make me very happy. Thank you for watching and I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye bye.